Film Vets. I'm Paul Dixon. Thanks for listening. I'm sorry we missed last week. We had a bit of life happening. And with me, my co-host Dan.
Yep, I'm the original Hot D for anybody that cares.
Mr. Hot D. Dr. Hot D.
I'm going to give myself an honorary doctorate. Can you do that?
Hey, if Dr. Pepper can do it, why can't you?
Hey, there we go.
This week we're going to talk about a certain someone that has a new movie releasing on HBO Max as of yesterday. Elvis Aaron Presley.
His middle name's Aaron?
His middle name is Aaron, according to the end credits, from what I gathered.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I've just confirmed. Aaron Presley. Yeah, Elvis Aaron Presley. Now, my experience with Elvis from the beginning of, like, since I was a little kid, my grandfather was a huge Elvis fan, and I didn't understand much about him. I knew he was a musician. I heard some of his music, and it was cool. I thought it was interesting, but I didn't know anything about the man. And then something about him dying on a toilet. That was a joke, I guess. I don't know I guess we'll find out today if that was true or not. I don't know, but that was the extent of my knowledge about Elvis Presley. What about you, Dan?
There was a surprising amount of information in that movie that I did not know about him. Simply the exploitation of Elvis was one of the largest bits of information that I didn't know, and that movie really drove it home, and I thought it had a very interesting angle, but I mean, basically what it sums up, if you have to distill it down into a one sentence moral for that movie, is his manager was a tick.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that. That was completely new to me. Now I will say, excuse me. Now I will say, I don't know the complete accuracy of the film. It was based off the life of Elvis Presley. He did have a manager. I did look up briefly that the manager, his background was true, but beyond that, I don't know. It's very sad if that's true, that he was, used as kind of they even point out there's a point in the film where there's a sign behind Elvis where it says "the geek," and the geek at carnivals is the chicken eating freak that they have, and that they kind of leading you to believe that that's what this man is going to use Elvis for.
It was powerful foreshadowing right there. It's ironic that you mentioned that. Like, I do want to throw out there, we have not had any prior conversation about this at all. In fact, only about 10 seconds before we started the podcast, I found out that Paul had actually watched Elvis.
I got home late and watched it.
I watched it by chance last night, and I absolutely was floored. I love the movie, the stylization, There's a few moments, like on Beale Street, where they pull a little bit more modern music, a modern tone into it. But it's beautifully done.
It's funny. It took me a minute to get into the film. Like, I understood what they were doing, and it was very frenetic, and the energy was just crazy high throughout. But for some reason, I had trouble at first getting into it. And I think at the point where Elvis started fighting back and trying to do what he loved was where it turned for me. And I was like, wow, this is really great.
I think it was the performance
of Austin. Yeah, I know. It's weird. Maybe I was just in a mood. I don't know. But it wasn't badly made or anything. I was like trying to get into Austin Butler's performance. And I swear to God that once the movie got to that point, I started becoming invested, more so than I already was. And I was like, wow, this is if the Oscars or, if he is not nominated at the very least for Best Actor, I will be very surprised and very heartbroken because it is a performance worth at least seeing once. Even if you don't like the film, the parts towards the end where he's in Vegas and he's performing, and I was blown away.
So you
Seriously,
mentioned
great
that
powerhouse.
it took you a solid minute to get into it, and it took
Yeah,
you
I didn't know.
a good minute.
I just didn't know where they were going. It felt like we were following Tom Hanks's character a lot, and I was like, I don't know. I didn't care about Tom Hanks at first, because I was like, I want to see Elvis. That's what I'm here to see. And they did follow Elvis, but it was from the perspective of the Colonel, and I don't know why it just took me a minute to get into that mindset, but after a while, it did work for me. It took a minute. That's all.
Well, right, and what I'm trying to say is where the point where, like, it took me a little bit too to kind of get into it, but it usually does for movies.
Yeah.
For me, the point where I immediately got sucked in was the ladies' underwear getting thrown up on the stage. That was it. It was early on, and from
I
that
did
point,
laugh
I was
a
hooked.
lot. I did laugh a lot when the women you're watching this woman watching Elvis for the first time, and she's trying to figure out what she's feeling, and the only thing she can do is just scream. I'm just like, it's as ridiculous as that may be, it's so true to what happened, I think. And look at the Beatles, look at any you know kind of musician of that scale, and people react like that, and that's fascinating to me. It's really cool. Yeah, I think the film overall was very enjoyable. I think that the number one thing for me was the performance of you know Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. But Austin Butler, I mean, I've really liked his work since I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which actually there was a little call out to that movie in a way in this movie. Did you see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I did not.
Okay, it's a Quentin Tarantino film with Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. It's my personal favorite Quentin Tarantino film, and that's saying a lot, but I really dig that film, and I know a lot of people don't, but whatever. And he actually plays one of the Manson murderers, and
Interesting.
yeah, and so when there's a scene where he's reading the newspaper and the Manson murders happen, I thought that was very interesting. I'm like, oh, that's a little shout out to his other movie. Okay, so yeah, a little behind the scenes information about that. I'm gonna pull it up so I can accurately state what Austin Butler said. Um, and yeah, I use Google. Yeah, I know how to use Google. Let's see, Baz Luhrmann. Yeah, there was some news that came out a while back. La, 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 la. Yeah, so there was a scene where I believe it was the first time that Elvis sang on stage, and the women are going crazy, but apparently the director heckled Austin Butler so much that he brought him to tears.
Damn. Why?
Yeah, to get him in the mindset of where Elvis was.
Oh,
Um,
to kind of shake him a little bit,
yeah, and it was something that
breaking out
apparently
that
Leonardo
Stanley
DiCaprio.
Kubrick.
Yeah, apparently Leonardo DiCaprio said to Austin Butler, he's like, "Be warned, Baz Luhrmann will push you quite a lot." And I honestly didn't realize Baz Luhrmann was like that. I was like, oh, he's a talented director, but I didn't know he was so intense. I guess that makes sense in the scope of things. But yeah, to just say, I really do feel like he deserves a nomination at the very least, for sure.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
mm.
I thought that was a fantastic movie through and through.
What would you give it out of five geeks?
Um, I mean, honestly, I'd be as far as to give it like 10 out of 5 rhinestones. Um,
Wonderful.
I don't know. If we're doing a scale of geeks, is having more geeks good or bad?
Well,
How
if
many
you
like
if
is
you
there a
run a
chicken
circus, it's a good
endemic that we
thing.
need to get rid of?
Well, I mean, you can never have too many chickens being eaten on stage.
Uh, it depends on who's
You've
doing
seen
cleanup
you've seen
afterwards.
you've seen Nightmare Alley, right?
No.
Oh my God,
It's
watch
safer
that.
at this point to assume that I haven't seen anything. Like, just
Yeah, but
imagine that
sometimes
I
it's
am a newborn baby just opening my eyes for the first time.
for the
Have I seen it?
my in my defense, there have been times where I say, "Hey Dan, have you seen this?" And you go, "Of course I've seen that." And I'm just like, "Well, I'm sorry if I assumed that you didn't see it.
I just like being
Can't
dramatic.
win." The Kobayashi Maru, man, come on.
Well, yeah, I mean, really, there is no way to win. But yeah, I mean, I would absolutely like. I think this is one of the best. What is this, like a biopic, a biography? Like, what
I
would you call
suppose so.
this?
It's a biopic, but it's done in a very similar way, but different from other biopics. Like if you think of other biopics, like the Walk the Line, Johnny Cash uh, growing up and getting successful and getting into drugs, and that's just kind of the standard when it comes to musicians. That's just that, because that happens to everyone. They show their life when they're a kid, how they learned what they learned, why they became the way they are, and then they become successful because of their music, and then they get addicted to something and they go through rehab. And it's just, we've seen it so many times. I think the difference with this film is that it was actually just very focused in on the relationship between the colonel and him, and that was an interesting perspective, and it works because you not only have this third person kind of looking in and just giving their perspective on what happened between them, but you're also seeing these events that happen through time. And I don't know the accuracy of certain events, but in the context of the film itself, it's done very well.
Oh, absolutely. In fact,
Yeah.
I've got kind of a small side story on a part of that movie.
Ooh, please share.
One specific location. So for my wife's birthday one year, I believe it was back in like 2018. We actually went to BB King's on Beale Street in
Really?
yeah,
That's
in
cool,
Memphis.
man.
Um,
That's sick.
like we went, we had dinner, had a couple of drinks, we listened to the live band. It was an amazing experience. So I mean, and Beale Street is amazing. The energy is still kind of there that you see in the movie. It's a little bit more. I don't want to say toned down because that's not accurate. It's a little different than it was, but I think the times play a lot into that. But it's still very high energy. Still very. It's almost just like a party. The moment you go down there, it's absolutely phenomenal. I loved every second we were down on Beale Street.
Oh, that's cool.
So I mean
That's awesome.
that's story time with Dan.
Story time with Dan. Uh, no, that's cool, man. I love going to places and visiting either eventful places from films or events in history. But I went to Paris my junior year at high school, and ended up going to the gravesite of Jim Morrison. And I thought that was really
Oh,
cool.
wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I was something I wanted to ask. Did you know there was a film about Elvis already?
I'm gonna say
I'm gonna say
yes.
that. Did you know, Dan? And the answer is always going to be no.
Well, I mean, I honestly, in this regard, yes, I do remember that there is an older movie about Elvis and his life. I think I've seen it. I don't remember who stars in it.
I've seen clips. It's starring Kurt Russell
That's it.
as Elvis Presley.
Yes, yes, I've seen
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um,
I actually heard good things. I want to check that out.
it you should. It's a pretty decent movie. Like you absolutely should. The thing that I think they kind of missed the mark on, and why this version of Elvis's story focuses so much more on the Colonel, because it's it's highlighting that end of life exploitation and not a celebration. You know,
Yeah,
it's
and that's
showing
something
the
we.
darker side
That's
of that.
Yeah, I think that's something important to showcase because, like you and I, we had no idea. You know, I really was taken aback that someone had this hold on such a prolific person, and you look at Elvis, from an outside perspective, and when not knowing anything about his life, and you're like, this is the king. This is the man that does what he wants. I mean, you can't imagine anybody saying to him no. It just really threw me for a loop, and it was really sad. He just wanted to play his music and do, travel the country, go explore and see the world, and he couldn't do it. It's really shitty. And then it puts in perspective this whole thing about him when he starts gaining weight, starts becoming more depressed, and in the few last years of his life are just not what they should have been. And I don't put all the blame on the Colonel. Of course, Elvis could have said no when the whole Vegas thing came up, but again, this is from the movie.
He couldn't though.
This is not. I
He
don't know.
couldn't. It's
Yeah.
actual
Remember,
in
he brought him.
actual litigation. It's been proven that there was a financial abuse, like an abusive manager relationship by the Colonel.
Oh yeah,
It was
you're right.
settled out of court, but it is an actual litigious, you know, thing.
The
It's
way
real.
the way the film presented it though was that he came to Vegas to say goodbye and break it off with his manager, and the manager talked him into staying in Vegas because it was going to make him a bunch of money.
Well, that's part of that. Yeah, he could have
Yeah,
still broken it off and walked away, but the ace in the sleeve that the Colonel had was always going to come up, and
you're right.
the
I
check
think
was going
I
to
think
be
he would
due,
have.
so to speak. He was
I think
always going to keep his hooks in him.
Yeah, I think no matter what he was going to do, that he was going to pull that card eventually, and
Well,
this
yeah,
was just
absolutely. Because he had
yeah,
been
that makes total
tracking
sense.
that since the beginning, the very first concert he played.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up. Yeah, I don't like when people take advantage of other people like that in general, and to do that to someone like Elvis is really frustrating.
You know what
Um,
I found really interesting?
hmm.
And I'm gonna make a kind of a direct parallel. Have you ever seen the MTV Unplugged concert for Nirvana?
Oh, many times, many
Okay,
times.
you know in the Pines, when
Oh yeah,
he's right at that last note, he takes that breath in. Kurt Cobain
yeah,
does,
yeah.
and you just kind of look at it and you're like, oh, that's different, like it's kind of like the last public recorded moment that you can just kind of see they're done, and they actually have footage at the end of the movie for Elvis of Elvis actually singing the last song he sang before he had passed away at 42, and it had the same exact feeling. Like you just watch at the very end when he just kind of, his voice breaks, and it's almost just heartbreaking at that moment when you just see it. Did you feel the same way?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask, and I guess this will move straight into our next little segment idea I had, and that was a moving scene. My question was, what are films that you have cried at? What are tearjerkers for you? You can admit you cry, Dan. It's okay.
An American Tail got me.
Oh my God! Right, with the somewhere out there.
Yep.
Oh my God! Yeah,
that song got me.
That song gets you. Yeah, yeah.
Gosh.
It's such a weird thing for a cartoon to move you like that.
Yeah.
Well,
Elvis got me too.
yeah, I would say Elvis definitely got me at the Christmas scene. After the assassination, and he's singing that I think it's something about a dream. I that was really moving, really moving stuff. Yeah.
The last concert scene is what did it for me. That very last scene was just, it broke my heart.
Yeah. What was the song? Do you remember?
It wasn't Fools Rush In, but it was something about love.
I'll tell you what it is, and it's actually connected to a movie that, for some reason, well, I mean, it's obvious why it gets to me, but even more so now, is Ghost. And
oh,
the song is
my
My Love.
Yep. Oh, that's awesome.
So Ghost really gets me, especially with Patrick Swayze passing. It's just really beautiful ending, and I love the scene. He's saying goodbye to his wife, and they have a non-vocal version of that song playing, and it's just beautiful. The biggest, there's two other movies that I always tear jerk with, and that sounds wrong.
Lay them on us. What do you tear jerk with? We'll get you jerking.
Yeah, The Crucible, starring Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, okay.
This is specifically the scene where he has to write his name. That's just that gets me. A man is. Oh God, dude, you gotta watch that movie. I'm gonna be saying that a lot, dude.
Oh,
you
yeah.
gotta watch it.
Yep. I've just got a long running list of films that I need to watch.
Well, I'm really proud of you for watching Elvis. I'm very, very happy you did that.
Well, it's funny though. So here's how this all played out. My wife went out to go see a couple of movies. She's currently in another town right now.
Is she an AMC list user?
I don't know.
Man, she's got to get on that. If she's going to movies a lot, that's a must.
She wants to, look at like Movie Pass and stuff. But I think those are going to be like the subscription passes or like Movie Passes, stuff like that. That should be another topic, another video for another day.
Oh yeah.
Simply because there's a ton of information we can throw out there. But if anyone's interested in that, hang on. We're going to bring it up.
Well, definitely. I'm going to put that on the list for next time.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yes, please. But
cool.
While she's gone, she went out to go see a couple of movies. She went to go see Beast, she went to go see Bullet Train, and she went to go see Elvis. And out of those three, she thought Elvis was just one of the best movies she had seen in a while, and she couldn't recommend it to me anymore. And that's what prompted me to go and see it last night.
Nice.
We were having a conversation, and I asked her, okay, well, out of those movies, which one would you suggest? She's like, hands down, Elvis. So I watched it, and I couldn't agree more with her. It's also interesting because Elvis is always synonymously correlated with Las Vegas because of his residency and everything, and he helped build Vegas and the idea of residencies into what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
But we, when we were in the
Which
military,
we lived in for a long time.
Yeah, we were in Vegas, and I met my wife in Vegas, and because she grew up in Vegas.
I met your wife in Vegas too.
Yes, you did.
We went to college together.
Yes, and there is a long, weird history there. But
yeah, in college, yeah,
but yeah, I mean, like, I was really surprised because I had always kind of built up this stereotypical thought of Elvis as being Elvis. You know, he's just a very good self-promoter and had just this way about him that he didn't really have to try as hard. And this movie kind of blows all of those assumptions out of the water. That dude, it paints him as an actual, like, human being versus what the outward extension of him kind of looks like. It's very weird, and I don't mean to make it sound like I didn't regard Elvis as a human being before, but it was just you get a lot of white noise with Elvis.
I think that was exactly what I was trying to convey earlier, was that he just seemed like such a figure, not a person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a myth.
Yeah, a myth.
Just
yeah,
a legend.
Just this legend that existed before my time. That's all.
Like, it's finding out that Hercules ended up getting a divorce and really missed his kid. You know, it's like, wow. I can relate.
Now I got this,
that's crazy.
Now I got this image of, like, you know, Judge Judy or like a court session on TV, and Hercules is coming in with paperwork, and
it's a very litigious myth. That's awesome. All rise.
Yeah. All rise. So, yeah, Elvis, man, good stuff, and the tearjerkers. That was fun. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I had one more on my list that I wanted to bring up.
What you got?
Just because, you know, for tearjerkers. Schindler's
what else
List.
makes you? Oh God, yeah, that's the original Jerkin movie.
Now you could. We gotta stop saying it. Jerkin movies.
I'm just trying to save time.
Oh wow, you're saving something. So
spot in hell, baby.
So with Schindler's List, there's a lot of scenes in that film where you cry. I mean, it happens. But the one at the end with the ring and the trying to talk about how many lives he could have saved, and it's making me tear up right now just thinking about it. And you know, there was something else that made me tear up recently that I think it kind of led me into this whole idea of, like, movies that make you cry, was the Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer. I don't know if you've seen that.
Nope.
I tear up with that trailer because I'm like, it has nothing to do with, like, oh, it's a Marvel movie. No, it's the fact that the film is gonna pay homage and tribute to Chadwick Boseman, and it is throughout the entire trailer. You can feel just this sadness running through it, and the loss of this icon, and it really brings out you know, I was watching reactions from other YouTubers and stuff, and they were feeling it too, and they're just like, oh my god, this is probably one of the best trailers ever made, because it pulls on the heartstrings so much, you know.
See, I feel like we really need to just kind of sit down and maybe work some trailer videos into there.
We wanted to do. I brought up doing reactions, and I think that would be great to do.
It.
Yeah, I think that would be great to do, especially. This will go. Hey, segue. We're going straight into the next segment that I wanted to bring up. D23 is coming up next weekend. D23 is the Disney convention that will be releasing a bunch of bombshells about the upcoming slate for Marvel films. I would love to do a reaction video of us watching some of the trailers and
absolutely. Yeah,
information coming out.
we should definitely collect some information there. But for anybody that maybe you're driving to work, maybe you're don't have access to video, but maybe you're just doing something and you're just listening in. We'll also probably stop to talk about it, I'm sure.
Well, I was thinking, and if you're game for this, we'll talk about it later, but I would love to do a live reaction. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Oh, like the whole video?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like just
all right.
do it live on YouTube.
So there we go.
I think we should do it. I think it would be a lot of fun. I've always wanted to do something like that. I just and I let the fanboy out with this stuff. I'm like, oh my god, and we're gonna find out, and I believe it's rumored we're gonna find out who is directing the Fantastic Four, which there's rumored already to be a director, but also who's going to be starring in the Fantastic Four. And
so in other words, we're going to have a whole lot more information on the D23 stuff next week.
Oh yeah, and that's just one movie. That's just one movie.
Like I feel like that could take us down a pretty serious rabbit hole right now.
Yeah, and we might be finding out who is playing a certain villain. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be Galactus, but I'm going to go ahead and reserve any speculation at the.
No, it's I think it's going to be Victor Von Doom, but
well, that makes sense if we're getting a Fantastic Four. I mean, come on. He's basically the fifth wheel.
Well, if you watch the Black Panther trailer, Wakanda Forever trailer, there is a indication that he is coming. And it's only if you're watching and you understand what is happening. But that's a rumor. It's not true. It's speculation. That's all.
Okay. Well, we should definitely put together like a full video podcast so we can sit down and watch it and actually
I would love that.
Discuss. I think that would be an excellent
what we
way
can
to go.
do. What we can do, I think this will be great. If you're cool with it, we can start our videos up a little early, since I don't want to start at the same time as D23 anyway. We started up early, maybe like 30 minutes to an hour, and let people shuffle in, or that would like to watch live. And while we're waiting, we can watch some of those things, and we can react to those and just talk about them.
I think that would be amazing. Yeah, let's do that.
Awesome. Okay, we got a plan.
All right, so
cool.
Y'all, it's a date.
It's a date. Come on.
Do we know what time we wanna go live so that way people know?
Well, at this point, let me look it up. I got this thing called internet. I should probably use it.
Well, there you go. While you're looking it up,
does D23 happen? Okay. So it will be going from the 9th through the 11th. We got to find out when they're going to be doing the Marvel stuff, because I really don't want to sit there for 3 days. And,
you don't want to sit there and live react to the live action Little Mermaid.
I'm sorry, no.
I think we should, because that would just be us sitting there just shaking our heads no.
I mean, I would.
Solid hour of just disappointment.
What a great way for
amazing.
Our podcast to go. Just disappointment podcast. That's all we're doing. Let's see. We probably should try to catch the Star Wars stuff too.
See, there you go.
Yeah. There will be a live stream. What I'm thinking is we can. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out the best way to go about doing this. Okay, I found like the list of everything that's going to be happening when, blah blah blah. Looks like Friday's going to be Disney's Ceremony, Disney Scores podcast, Legends in Conversation, D23 Masquerade. I'm thinking Saturday is when everything's going to go down. But I'm gonna do some more research to let everyone know. We'll we'll get everything online and post about it for sure.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. So I mean, stay tuned to and I guess we can go ahead and
Okay,
stay tuned to
it looks like it's going to
our
be
social media.
Saturday, September 10th at 10 a.m. seems to be when everything's going to go down. So we'll probably, if you're cool with it, we'll
Is that
start.
Eastern or Pacific?
That would be Pacific.
Sweet.
If you're cool with it, it's going to be a little early on my end, but I don't mind. We could start at 9 a.m. my time, which will be like 11 your time, I think.
That sounds awesome.
Cool. Okay. All right, we'll do that. I'll do more research, but it looks like that's what's going to happen. Let's move on now to a couple of things that recently came out. I know we're trying to stay on top of watching our House of the Dragon, which I'd like to get to in a minute. The Hot D.
That rip off Hot D.
Yeah, but Lord of the Rings dropped, and I want to talk about that first.
Okay.
Now, you said you only watched the first episode and maybe half of the second?
Yes, I am 3/4 of the way through both episodes. So I've got a half hour left of the second episode, and
Gotcha.
oh man,
What do you think so far?
you want to start with me?
Yeah, I really do. I give my thoughts
maybe you
afterwards.
should start so that way you can say how much you love it before I absolutely trash this thing.
Oh man, yeah, okay. Wow, we're gonna have very different views on this then.
We are. This is
yeah.
going to be a rough ride, so to speak.
Yeah. Now, I personally love the hell out of this. I thought it was everything I wanted, personally. It's slow. Yes, I know it's slow. It didn't bother me though. I love the lore. I love the mythology surrounding it. I loved the special effects were just you can't deny, even if you didn't like the story, the special effects are top notch, like all around. I'm really engaged in. By the end of the first episode, I want to know more about the stranger that comes. I love the Harfoots, which are the ancestors of the hobbits. I thought that was really fun. I don't know. I dig it. I really dig it, and I don't think it's for everyone, and I'm okay with that. I don't think anything needs to be universally loved. I think if you love something, that's okay. And like I actually enjoyed the Star Wars sequel trilogy more than most people did, and I liked it more than the prequels, that's for sure. But some people disagree with me, and that's okay, because you're entitled to your opinion. Unless you post on Twitter, then God help you. But I don't know. I think a lot of the hate that's coming out for Lord of the Rings is due to a lot of what happens in the first episode being slower than it should be. And I personally found myself more invested than other people. The second episode, by the end, I'm hooked. Like, I love where it's going. I have a feeling I know who the stranger is, but I'm kind of hoping that I'm wrong, because I like to be surprised.
It's Gandalf the Nude, isn't it?
Well, here's the thing. I wanted to discuss that because it might not be, but it might be. So that is the theory. And when you're given something as a mystery, and it's like all these things that tell you this is what it's supposed to be, and that's sometimes a little too easy. It's almost like it's a red herring. Like, oh, well, this is obviously that. Yeah, but it's a mystery, and mysteries rarely turn out to be what they are on the surface.
Yeah,
so
I can understand that, and I can appreciate that view.
Yeah, so if they're leading you to believe it's one thing, it could definitely be another. But I kind of hope it is Gandalf. But the thing is that Gandalf doesn't show up till the third age of Middle-earth. This is the second age. So there's this idea that he is another character similar that or like a precursor to Gandalf. But I just don't know. I don't know. Anyway, my thoughts about the whole thing are I enjoyed it. Um, I'm invested, and I can't wait to see where it goes. What are your thoughts, Dan?
Oh, we're moving right into controversy. Okay, so
I'm
first
so
off,
excited.
I would like to speak on the just a real quick note on the stranger that kind of comes into play, comes flying out of the sky. I like to think that he's like Sauron's crazy ass gardener. You know, like just nothing really big to the story, and I know he's gonna play a big part, obviously, but um, like it just it makes me laugh. That's it. It's just stupid funny. So with that being said, let's turn our attention to. I'm going to draw a parallel. Um,
Before you
to the
start,
series.
before you start, I just want to say Deadline just released that Lord of the Rings Rings of Power, Forge's biggest premiere viewership ever for Amazon Prime.
Oh, Amazon Prime has been doing rough.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm just playing.
Anyway, go ahead.
so what I'd like to do is I'd like to draw a parallel. Like visually, this show is first class. It holds up, if not a little bit better, against the actual movies. It's visually just so appealing. It wants to suck you in, and it wants to, get you oriented and excited to see all the different landscapes and how the different people interact and things like that. It's got that charm to it.
Yeah.
But here's where now I'm going to build out my metaphor. It's a beautiful woman or man. It's absolutely stunning. But to me, it lacks any personality. And the reason I say that, and I know I always give shows that one episode kind of leeway. Like technically episode 1 doesn't really exist. It's just in kind of like an orientation to what you're about to watch. That's how it always is. It's the beginning, like you don't crack a book open, read the first page and go, "Oh, this is garbage," unless it's Twilight. So so what my problem with this though is it's already kind of an established story. It's playing as a prequel to Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. It already has, and this is where I'm going to kind of draw this interesting parallel between our two topics, House of the Dragon and The Rings of Power. Both of them technically prequels to the original series, they're both visually on par with their predecessors of the series itself, between Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. So they've definitely struck the tone with it, but Tolkien isn't around to add any depth, add any of that soul that you see Peter Jackson managed to capture and inject into the original Lord of the Rings movie. The Lord of the Rings movie, calling it what it is, they can be slow. There's a lot of exposition, a lot of moving forward, but there's a soul to it. You can actually see that care that the original, and I'm going to call him an artist, author, whatever, but Tolkien put into this series, just that wonder he put into his story, that was able to be harnessed and fleshed out into the movies. This doesn't have that. It feels a little disjointed, kind of like The Hobbit did in a way. Although I think that, with The Hobbit, it was still kind of translated with that lens of Lord of the Rings. So it had some of the same tone, but it just wasn't as good as the original, right? Would you agree to that?
So my opinion about The Hobbit is that it's a much smaller book that was made into three movies for no reason.
Right.
Um, but when I actually watched the version with Tony that was somebody had edited the films down to two movies, and it works really well.
I want to see that.
Yeah, so my opinion about The Hobbit is when they cut down and edit the correct way, it works
Well,
very
and
well.
why is it parts of the book that they distilled out of the rest of the noise?
Well, it's parts that were not in the book that they edited out that were in the film.
Well, that's what I'm
The things that just didn't make any sense for being there, like
that's
Sauron,
what I'm asking.
the lead up for Sauron and Gandalf's journey to finding out. That's all gone. The whole thing with um, the love story between the elf and the dwarf, gone. And
Right,
it works
because they
so
weren't
much better.
it wasn't in the book, right?
Right.
Well, and that's
What I
exactly what
gathered,
I'm.
yeah.
That's kind of what I'm alluding to here, or at least trying to hit the mark on with the Rings of Power. Is
You're
there's
saying the Rings of
no-
Power stuff that they have for the show isn't working for you?
Well, correct. It's just it feels like it's lacking a specific soul. I almost feel like this would be better, and maybe it would be better for me to realize that there is a massive divorce between Lord of the Rings and this show because there's nothing from the original vision of this. Whereas at
Well,
least The Hobbit
it's a
kind of
different.
flirts with it.
Well, it's definitely a different film or show from the movies, and you just kind of have to wrap your head around that. You know, this is taking place thousands of years before Lord of the Rings. Um, yeah, I guess I I respect your opinion. I
You
don't
vociferously
agree.
agree with it. Yep.
I don't agree.
Disagree.
Because I felt a lot of things, especially the relationship between Elrond and Galadriel. I really loved that. I loved the new the Harfoots, Nori, and her relationship with her clan or whatever, and the people that the other Harfoots. I really like the mystery surrounding the stranger. I'm excited to see where that goes because if it is this precursor to Gandalf, I forget what the name they're called, like blue wizards. I can't remember, but they are. It's kind of a workaround to putting Gandalf in the series if that's the case. Um, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I love the mystery of where Sauron is. I don't know. I guess I just, it's interesting when you watch something and someone has a completely different feeling than you get. I mean, that's the beauty of art. It's subjective. You see something,
Absolutely.
a painting or, something that somebody's made, and one person can walk up to it and be like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. This is the most
And then I
beautiful thing
usually
ever."
walk up and go, "This
And
is
then you come
garbage."
up and you come up and you fart on it.
Oh, come on! I don't wink at it with a brown eye or anything like that. Come on!
No.
But
It's just,
I will let them know that it's absolute trash and they should feel bad.
Yeah, exactly. So, and here we are. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for making me feel bad.
Oh, you're welcome. It's just
Bastard.
it's very very hard to impress me. I don't know why.
I don't think so.
Maybe I wasn't
there's
hugged
been
enough
other
as a
things
kid.
that were.
Like
I
I'm
do
just
believe that.
I'm just a little bit more bitter and see things a little bit more critically than you do. You always have kind of had that childhood wonder. We would walk out of some movies and you'd be like, "Oh, that was great," and I'd go, "Yeah, that's okay." Like it.
Yeah, no, I
didn't
definitely
do
am
anything
more of a
for me.
positive. I am definitely more of a positive force when it comes to films and more forgiving than most people. And I admit that. I know there's a lot of people that would, I would come out and say, "Oh, that was a great film." Like perfect example, and I am not ashamed of this, but I saw Daredevil with Ben Affleck and loved it, and a lot of people did not agree with me.
Oof.
And at the time, you have to understand though, we did not have the MCU. We did not have.
No, we didn't.
I just wanted. I think the thing was surrounding it was I was just excited to get a Daredevil movie. I was such a big fan of Daredevil. I love Daredevil, and yeah, looking back, the film isn't great, but it was Daredevil, and I was happy it was there. And Kevin Smith was in the movie. I was like, this is great. Hindsight's 2020, but I definitely don't think the film has aged well, and probably was bad the first time it came out. But I really enjoyed it, and it's okay for your taste to change over time. That said, I do get overexcited about things when they first come out, and I'm like, okay, this is great, and then when I give it some time, I can usually kind of dissect if it's really good or not. A perfect example was Doctor Strange 2. Like, I really had fun watching the movie, and I thought about it afterwards, and it's okay. It's not.
It's all right.
It's okay, but I expected more. I expected
Yes.
it to be a game changer of a movie, and I guess that's on me. But when you call a movie Multiverse of Madness, I guess I had expectations for it to be a multiverse of madness. But that's okay. The film doesn't have to live up to these expectations. That's not what a film is. The film is a film, and it is made the way it is.
Right. But I mean,
so it's fine.
Pulling everything back to Lord of the Rings, and a side note, really quick.
Yeah, sorry, I went on a tangent there.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, that's what we do. But I think that's what makes us pretty well on here is I always seem to be a foil to that enthusiasm. And it's not like I'm just trying to be malicious or hateful towards things. It's just, it's really hard to impress me. Whereas,
I think the problem is you weren't hugged as a child.
Oh, exactly. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I did not receive enough participation trophies or hugs, or like maybe Santa gave me a box of just dog feces for Christmas. Like nobody knows what's wrong. They just need to know that
delve into that
hyper...
on another episode.
Yeah, it's just gonna be me laying on a shrink's couch.
At the end, the shrink starts just. The shrink just walks out. It's like, I can't deal with this. I can't do it.
Show me on the puppet where they didn't touch you.
It might be easier if I just show you where it didn't touch me.
Exactly. But yeah, like it's like with the Rings of Power, I think that visually it's awesome, and I'm willing to see where it goes. I'm going to give it a fair shake.
So you're
I'm not
keep
piecing out.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with it for at least 4 or 5 episodes and see where we go. If it can manage to turn it around and make its case for me, because that's all it is. Like if we look at Elvis took a little bit longer to make its case for you to keep watching, a little bit later. But once it did, man, it blew you away. I have to admit,
I was also in a bad mood. Like, I had a pretty shitty day. So maybe that played into that, and that was affecting
more than likely. I mean, usually, like, as soon as you see the little play symbol on the screen, you're in. So I was surprised that it took you so long.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you watch movies in a bad place, and then it just doesn't... Like, I remember I saw the horror movie Hereditary in the theater, and I hated that movie, but I also remember there was a bunch of like teenagers talking and making fun of the film, so it was hard to even get into the film. But when I watched it at home by myself, I was like, this is one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. So it's circumstances. It's always circumstances, man. I want to switch over to...
Really quick, here's another fun story, just a very short departure for people. I watched
Okay.
It Follows with Paul, and I heckled the film, and I actually, like, we were sitting in a room. There were like 3 or 4 people in there. It wasn't a very big group of people, but much like a movie theater, I got ejected from the room.
I almost strangled you to death. I was like, Dan, I will murder you.
I was escorted to the exit, and I just remember standing there going,
We're in my
"What
home,
just
and I'm
happened?"
just like, sir, can you please leave the...
Yeah, exactly. Like, you got your little flashlight,
leave
you
the
guided
house.
me to the exit. It was amazing. And
That's
I gave
funny.
that movie another fair shake, and that was pretty good. But we should save that for Halloween.
Yeah, well, Halloween, we're definitely going to be doing a horror segment, and I'm going to find, other actors that are veterans that were in horror films. I would love to do a segment for that. But I want to switch over to the House of the Dragon because we only got a couple of minutes left here. What did you think?
That one I actually enjoyed. It had a better, like, graphically it was not, like, visually it was not on par with the Rings of Power. But I did enjoy it. I mean, at first I kind of came into it in a bad mood too. I have to admit. But
Oh, that's funny.
after the first episode, I was like, all right, I'm really interested to see where this goes. And it took a few creative liberties on pushing some extremes, which made me super uncomfortable. But all in all, like, it's got my attention early on. Like, I'm
Good.
interested. How about you? What do you think of it?
Oh, wonderful. I first of all, I love the intro with it looks like it's Valeria, the Targaryen dragon dynasty that fell at the doom of Valeria. So that was cool to see, like, the sigils coming in and changing, and it felt very Game of Thrones, and of course you got the music from the original series.
Oh yeah,
which-
all the blood.
Which always gets you pumped, So that was great. I love that there was this, uncomfortable scene of him having to court a 12-year-old.
Yeah, that
I
was
remember
super
watching it.
awkward.
I remember watching that with Tyler and Nadine, and Tyler was screaming, of course, and Nadine.
when is
Said
Tyler
that-
not screaming? That dude is
Yeah, that's
great
true.
because he will tell you exactly what he thinks as loud as you can tolerate.
That's what's so
It's
funny about him.
awesome.
So Nadine had the quote of the night. She said, "I missed the ice zombies. That was less creepy than this."
Yeah.
I was like, you're right. Oh my God. And it's funny how you got this guy who's like, I'm not marrying that 12-year-old. That's creepy. I'll marry that 14-year-old over there.
That's a
I
little
guess
less
that's better.
creepy. It's like,
Yeah,
no,
I guess
man.
so. I don't
No, you're not reading the room.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to also see the whole thing with Daemon play out, on Dragonstone.
Oh
And-
yeah.
It was really awesome to see, Rhaenyra come in and just kind of say, you want to take over, you're gonna have to kill me. It was intense. It was really well done, and I'm excited to see where the show goes. I mean, I know certain things because I've read the book, and it's hard to spoil yourself when it comes to that, but it's filling in the gaps of, like, knowledge that we didn't know very well.
So I got a theory for you.
Sure.
So it shows the king, and I don't remember names because I'm terrible with names. So I'm just gonna call them by what they are. So the king has a wound on his back, right? And then he's got wounds on his hands and stuff, whatever, from
The throne.
the throne. The throne keeps cutting him. So
Yeah.
I had told you a little bit ago that I had a theory. Like, you have, like, the Mad King, that Game of Thrones alludes to. Even Daenerys kind of starts losing her mind after a hot minute. Um, I'm willing to bet I know what's causing it.
You think the throne?
Yes, I think the throne itself is causing tetanus, which tetanus is bacteria, which causes an infection.
Well, I would agree with that, but the fact is that they've said many times that it's just the Targaryens are incestual. They flip a coin and you don't know what kind of Targaryen you're going to get. But also the fact Dany never even touched the throne until the last episode.
And then she was crazy.
But she didn't. She killed everyone before she touched the throne.
Yeah, but that's just being decisive. Like, I respect that. You know, like she knew what she was doing. It's just all the way up till the end.
Your holes are getting bigger, Dan.
Oh yeah. Well,
there's other people that have sat the throne too, and they were not insane. Jaehaerys was the oldest king, the one at the beginning of the first episode. He was the oldest king to ever rule in Westeros, and he never went crazy.
And he probably sat there wearing one of those like suits that dog handlers wear, so that way when the dog bites them, it doesn't break through. So he's like got his arms stiffed out, just sitting there.
That's how they get through it. That's how they do it. That's how they become.
Next
if you're
subject,
a true king. Yeah. No, I would love to see I would love to see that.
me too.
I think do you know about Maegor the Cruel?
Who?
Okay, so
I think that his parents were the cruel ones, giving him that name.
Well, his parents were Aegon, the Conqueror, and one of his sister wives, Visenya, I think it is. And
I thought you were going to say vasectomy.
Vasectomy, yeah. A little late for that one. I have to tell you about this thing later. Anyway, so Maegor took over from Aenys, who was the son of Maegor, the first son, born of his other sister wife. He was a weak king, and Maegor was strong, but cruel, and he was kind of the opposite of Aenys in every way. When Aenys died, Maegor took over, and he did a lot of fucked up stuff. He was just the worst king. But the way he died was interesting because they came into the throne room and he was just stabbed with all these knives from the throne. Like it looked like the throne had killed him. So, but that's like
interesting.
Probably not true that the throne killed him. He most likely he was probably killed by people because he was cruel, but they did it in secret because fuck that guy. So his whole thing was he died. He didn't have anyone. He didn't have any heirs afterwards because he just didn't. He had like, I think 7 wives and none of them had kids. But his brother, the one that died, the weak king, he had a son, Jaehaerys, the old king. So he grew up. So it's very interesting stuff. But anyway, I really think the throne cutting Viserys, the current king in House of the Dragon, is very indicative of he is not a good ruler. That's just it's kind of a metaphor for that. It's symbolism, yeah. It's saying if you are a good ruler, you will be able to sit on that throne without getting cut. That's the idea.
Or you just have really good posture, or
you
don't
just
tend to sit there naked.
Well, somebody pointed out something in the first episode that was really interesting, and we'll start cutting this out. We're past an hour at this point. I'm really having fun talking. Who knew? So, in the first episode, when we first see Daemon Targaryen sitting on the throne, you remember she comes in, Rhaenyra, and she talks to him in Valyrian. He's leaning to the left the entire time, sitting on the throne.
Yep.
And every cut that Viserys has gotten is on his other side, the side that he's leaning away from. I thought that was very interesting. It's almost like he knows not to lean on that side of the throne because it will cut him.
Oh yeah,
I just thought that was a cool little detail.
They're
that doesn't mean Daemon would be a good ruler, because they even say in the show they're like he'd be a Maegor 2.0. But that is interesting, I thought.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how they, like, the attention to detail that a lot of things get, and again, that's kind of what makes me think that this show is doing all the right things. It's got that level of attention to detail, even though it's not visually like
Yeah.
the top tier.
I mean,
got all of
for
that
TV,
attention.
I think it's great.
Oh no,
I think
it's
for
still
TV,
great.
Yeah.
It's still wonderful.
Well, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not TV. It's HBO.
There you go. You got that home box office.
A couple of things about House of the Dragon that has released is that apparently Elizabeth Olsen will have a part in season 2 as someone. I don't know who. I thought that was interesting. She's not someone I thought would show up on the show, but
Speaking of which, so there's 2 characters. Have you ever seen the show Outlander?
I've never watched Outlander. I think I started Outlander, but I just never got into it. I wanted to, though. Is it good?
Oh, dude! Not only is like all of the actors are wonderful in it, but it's also got that really just kind of mid-tier budget softcore porn feel.
Great.
It's but it's got an actual plot that you can get behind. So it's like, all right. So I've watched all the seasons up to, I think, season 5 or 6. Like I'm current. I'm waiting for the new season. It's
that
wonderful.
Good.
Oh yes.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get into that.
Again, the first season is a little weird, but it gets real messed up real quick. But we could talk about that after you start watching it. Anyway, there are a couple of actors that they pull from Outlander and drop it straight into House of the Dragon. Whenever I saw them, I'm like, wait a minute.
Really?
That's even funny, my wife I was remember, like, whoa. That's weird.
That's funny because I remember I think in the first episode, when she's in modern day for her, and her husband is from Game of Thrones.
Yep. I think that they lent very heavily back and forth.
I think it's the same casting directors.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's cool. The pedigree of acting on those shows is just phenomenal. Paddy Considine, who plays or Considine, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he plays King Viserys in House of the Dragon. I've always been a big fan of his in everything he's done. So just seeing him as the king is so fun, so great.
That's awesome.
I mean, have you seen Hot Fuzz?
Oh God, yeah.
He's one of the Andes.
And for the greater good.
He's one of the Andes at the police station.
See, that's awesome. That's right. Yeah. He is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So the other big news is that Miguel Sapochnik, who is the showrunner, one of the showrunners for Hot D, has left the show. That being said, it's not the worst thing in the world, since it's not because of something. No, there's no drama behind the scenes. Apparently, he just got exhausted, and he's been working on the show for 3 years, and the guy needs a break. So he's probably not going to be on season 2, but he has signed a deal with HBO, and there is a good possibility he will be working on other Game of Thrones shows. And there are going to be other spinoffs. They've already talked about the Jon Snow spinoff that Kit Harington and George R. R. Martin are apparently working on. So maybe he's on that. I don't know. I know there's also the one about Nymeria, the one that sailed across the unknown places of Westeros. I know they're working on a show for her. So there's a lot of possibilities. So that's my 2 cents. I think we're going to wrap it up. Anything else you want to talk about, Dan?
Well, I mean, you said they're making a spin-off of other Game of Thrones. So we've got Hot D. Are we going to get something like Westeros Eternal Tales Pleasantly?
Well, okay, so
Get
there's
some
a
wet
whole
pee?
there's a whole list of spin-offs coming.
Oh, geez.
Hold on. Other spin-offs from Game of Thrones. Okay, it didn't work. Weird.
They're gonna run the story so dry. It's literally gonna be about that
Well,
old dude
there's
at the crossing. It's just gonna be him sitting there getting cranky all the time. Lord knows they'll end up having to cast me, but
there's a ton of ways to go, and it's not going to be just the House of the Dragon stuff. So the Jon Snow show is one that was released that Kit Harington is a part of, and he's, again, like I said, working with George R.R. Martin. The Sea Snake, which is about it's a prequel on Corus Valerion, the you know, the character who is in the council, the black man with the white hair. He's
yes.
Valerion. Yeah. Prequel for him. 10,000 Ships is the Nymeria one I mentioned earlier. The Jon Snow show. Tales of Dunk and Egg. I'm very excited for. If they make that, I think that would be one of my favorites. I don't know if you know about Dunk and Egg, but we can talk about them.
Yeah, we should have kind of just a Game of Thrones spin-off episode where we
I could talk all day
as
about
they
that.
turn around and actually make this information more readily available and settle on some trailers.
Yeah,
we can
go
watch
through
them.
Yeah, we can go through and talk about them another time, but yeah, we should probably wrap this up. It's getting over time a little. But I'm having such a blast, man. Thank you again for joining me. Sorry
thank
we
you.
Missed last week.
Yeah,
sorry we missed last week.
Life just got in the way.
Yeah, life got in the way, but we're going to be more consistent and hopefully making more than once a week. I think that would be a good idea, even if we just pop in for 30 minutes or something.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I'm really excited where this is going. I was just told last night there's other people I had no idea were listening to the podcast. And so, yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank
Dan,
you.
where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook and on Instagram at Theodore Bear Dog, all one word. Where can they find you, Paul?
They can find me at Paul Allen Dixon on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and anywhere their hearts desire in social media. So, yeah.
And as always, they can find us at Film Vets on Facebook, too. And YouTube. You can drop a comment.
Yes. Film
what
Vets.
Did I say? Film Vets?
If you were... Film Vets, yes.
Film Vets.
Film Vets. If you are a veteran in the entertainment industry, we'd love to hear from you and would love to maybe have you on the show sometime and just, see what your experience has been and what you have coming up, and we want to promote it. So please reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to talk to you.
Awesome. Okay, guys. That'll do it. We're wrapping it up.
All right. Well, you have a fantastic week, day, month, whatever. We will talk to you here soon.
Yeah. Oh, Dan, by the way.
What?
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.